You'll learn how to spot the manipulator's fingerprints, how to weaponize strategic inconsistency, and, honestly, how to laugh at your own beautifully hackable brain. All while keeping a sharp pair of scissors in your pocket. The puppet show's not over. This time, you get to hold the strings.
The chasm of intent. The ultimate difference between Cialdini's principles and dark persuasion is not in the mechanism, but in the architecture of intent. Cialdini's framework is a transparent bridge. The goal is mutually beneficial exchange. A happy customer, a willing donor, a persuaded but ultimately autonomous individual. The principles are shortcuts for good decision-making in a complex world. Ethics are baked in. The bridge is built to carry two-way traffic. Dark persuasion is a labyrinth with a single exit, the manipulator's door. The intent is unilateral gain, control, and exploitation. It exploits the principles by corrupting the information that feeds them and by poisoning the relationship. It aims not for a yes, but for a surrendered okay. The darkly humorous, uncomfortable truth is this: we are all wired for the labyrinth. Our brains, for efficiency's sake, run on these very scripts. The defense isn't to become a cynical hermit, but to install cognitive speed bumps. Feel the pause. When you feel that sudden, urgent tug of scarcity or the warm glow of liking a little too quickly, pause. Ask, what do I actually want? What does this person actually want? Interrogate the authority. Is the uniform real? Is the expertise relevant? Or is it just a costume? Audit the social proof. Is this a genuine crowd or a painted backdrop? Reclaim reciprocity. A true gift has no strings. You are allowed to say thank you without signing a contract written in invisible ink. The psychology of influence is the story of human connection. Dark persuasion is the horror story remix. By understanding both the cathedral and its shadows, we can better navigate the marketplace, the meeting room, and the world, with our wallets, our wills, and our souls a little more intact. We can appreciate the craftsmanship of the puppeteer, while keeping a sharp pair of scissors in our own pocket, just in case. Part 4. The Resistance. How to spot the labyrinth's entrance. The uncomfortable truth, delivered with a dose of gallows humor, is that the most effective dark persuaders often feel good, or at least familiar. They don't twirl mustaches, they offer solutions. They don't hiss demands, they share concerns. So how do you spot the labyrinth before the door swings shut behind you? Look for the systematic overload. Dark persuaders rarely use one principle in isolation. They combine them, creating a psychological cocktail that overwhelms your cognitive defenses. It's the difference between a gentle nudge and a coordinated shove. The pattern recognition game. The friend in high places Gambit. So, my uncle, who's a Pentagon advisor, says this investment is the chance of a lifetime. And, well, I'm only telling you because I consider you a true friend. A lot of the guys in his circle are already in, and I can get you in, but I need an answer by tonight. Each pillar reinforces the next, building a cage of plausibility. The commitment cult maneuver. Here's how it works. A group love bombs a new recruit, showering them with attention and, small gifts. Then they introduce a revered, mystical leader. The recruit is asked to make a tiny public commitment. Maybe it's just wearing a pin or attending a special meeting. That little commitment is then used to justify larger asks, all framed as necessary to protect the special, chosen group. There's a scarcity of salvation and the social proof of the devoted. The initial yes becomes the ratchet that only turns one way. Your best defense, really, is to become a student of your own internal weather. Cognitive dissonance, that queasy feeling of holding two conflicting thoughts, is often your first clue. Pay attention to the physical sensation, a tightness in the chest, a slight headache, or just a sense of vague dread that contradicts the smiling faces and logical words. That's your psyche's alarm bell. Don't silence it with rationalization. Interrogate it. Part 5. The dark humor of our own wiring. A stand-up routine from the ID. We must laugh at the machinery, or, we'll despair at how easily it's hijacked. So let's indulge in a little dark comedy at our own expense. On Reciprocity, I will carry a psychological debt from a free mint at a restaurant for 3 years. The waiter could call me tonight and say, "Remember that mint? I need help moving a body." And I'd sigh, put on gloves and say, "Fine." But only because of the mint. Was it a wintergreen? I feel like it was a wintergreen. On Scarcity, I once bought limited edition socks. Socks. The only thing that should be limited about socks is their lifespan before they develop holes. But these had a serial number. I am now the proud, slightly chilled owner of collectible foot coffins. On Social Proof, if I see a crowd looking up, I will look up. I have done this while the crowd was looking up at a bird. I've done this while the crowd was looking up at a cloud. I am one algorithmically generated 10 weird tricks video away from looking up at the concept of mortality itself because everyone else is doing it. This humor isn't just deflection, it's a tool of reframing. It externalizes the trigger, turns it into an object we can observe. By laughing at our propensity to follow the herd off a cliff, we create a tiny, crucial space between the stimulus and our response. And well, in that space lies our freedom. Part 6, the long story continued, Arthur's awakening. Let's return to Arthur, trapped in Elias's labyrinth. Act 4, the speed bump. The breaking point comes during a mandatory team-building retreat, a stark, expensive lodge pitched as an exclusive privilege despite the obvious scarcity of budget. Elias gathers the managers together. He announces a new loyalty pledge, a literal document to sign, promising unwavering support for the so-called new direction. It's commitment, the final, blatant lock. The social proof is pretty palpable as a few eager sycophants rush to sign. The authority is absolute. Elias stands flanked by silent board members. Arthur feels the cognitive dissonance as a roaring in his ears. He looks at the document, then at Elias's expectant, cold smile. He remembers the vintage watch compliment, the fabricated data, the veiled threat. The pillars, once invisible, now look like a cheap movie set. Act 5. The counterspell. Arthur doesn't storm out, he doesn't sign, he employs a Cialdini-based countermeasure, strategic inconsistency. He stands and with a voice he hardly recognizes says, "Elias, I value consistency," naming the principle, right? When I agreed to the pilot log, I was consistent with my desire to help this company. Signing this feels inconsistent with my role as a critical thinker and a manager who protects his team. So I need to be inconsistent with this request, to remain consistent with my original principles. He has used the enemy's framework against him. He has reframed the narrative from disloyalty to higher order consistency. The room freezes. The social proof shatters. Others lower their pens. So in the end, Arthur isn't hailed as a hero. The Labyrinth, well, it fights back. He's sidelined, given the so-called cold projects. But here's the thing, the control is broken. He has seen the wires, you know? 6 months later, Elias's schemes just sort of unravel under their own complexity and, honestly, lack of real value. The board, exercising a different kind of authority, real fiduciary authority, lets him go. Arthur survives. He is wiser, sadder, and in possession of a priceless tool, the map to his own mind. Living in the Cathedral, guarding against the shadows, Robert Cialdini gave us a manual for human connection. Dark Persuasion is, well, the plagiarized malicious edition of that manual. The principles themselves are neutral, like fire, like electricity. They can light a hearth or burn a village. The goal is not to become paranoid, to see a dark persuader in every smile. That would make life a hollow, lonely prison. The goal is to achieve informed autonomy. Use the light to fortify yourself. Build genuine authority through competence, you know? Create authentic liking through shared humanity, and offer reciprocity freely, without ledgers. Spot the shadow by its shape. Look for the urgency, the flattery that feels just a bit too precise, the debt that appears out of nowhere, and the consensus that feels, well, manufactured. Feel for the cognitive dissonance. Wield your humor like a shield. Laugh at the ridiculousness of your own triggers. It really does drain their power. The most profound story here is not one of villains and victims, but of awareness and choice. You know, we are all always being influenced by stories, by brands, by loved ones, and even by our own pasts. The psychology of influence is, well, the very water we swim in. Dark persuasion, it attempts to pollute that water, to make you swim in circles until you're exhausted. But with awareness, you can learn the currents. You can choose when to swim with them, when to float, and when to turn and swim powerfully, gracefully toward a shore of your own choosing. You can appreciate the architecture of the cathedral, while always checking to see who's drawing the blueprints, and for what purpose.
If you found this guide empowering, take the next step in strengthening your personal boundaries. Save this video and return to it whenever you need a reminder of your own power. Share it with a friend who could use these strategies. You might be the catalyst for a positive change in their life. Follow and subscribe for more content like this, as we continue to explore the tools and mindsets for building an unbreakable character and a life of your own design. Stay sharp, keep focus. You deserve the best.